Imagine waking up to the biggest names in morning entertainment. Howard Stern, Today Show Radio, news from CNN, Fox News, Bloomberg, NPR, or sports talk on NFL, MLB, NASCAR radio, and more. Visit www.SiriusXM.com/go to sign up online quickly or call 844-711-8800 now. Activate your radio and begin exploring more than 140 channels.
Take a trip to the era of the new teenage craze of rock and roll and the pre-rock songs mom and dad preferred. The sound of happy days and drive-in nights with pop radio the way it used to be. From crooners to street corner harmony. To hear 50s gold, activate your radio by calling 844-711-8800 or visit SiriusXM.com/go.
Filled with ad-free music made for everything you do, mashup channels, workout channels, channels for parties, or just chilling out and more. Expertly curated for any mood, occasion, or activity. Extra channels let you discover new music and enjoy even more variety from every decade and music style you love. Plus, you can watch some of your favorite SiriusXM shows with SiriusXM Video. And you can do it all along with listening in your car as part of our music and entertainment plan. Right now, we're offering SiriusXM subscription plans for as low as $6 a month, plus fees and taxes. Call 844-711-8800 to find out more about these amazing offers.
On SiriusXM,
we're going to have a new champion in women's basketball.
The women's semifinals tip off tomorrow at 7 Eastern.
Clark, right wing three. You've got to be kidding me.
Then the men take the court Saturday at 6.
DJ Burns may have just put an exclamation point on an NC State win.
Listen to Westwood One's coverage on SiriusXM College Sports Radio, Channel 84, and the all-new SiriusXM app.
You gotta get this. There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, I see. I see it. You gotta get this. There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, I see. I see it. You gotta get this. You gotta get this.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 018-14868.
Grando Deportes, Bonjour, Vidi Vidi Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me and people who love the universe. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up! You know, at 3 o'clock in the morning, as I told people, I was nominated the Neighborhood Watch spokesperson, and I'm trying to bring the neighborhood together. But some people just don't appreciate it when I do it at 3 o'clock in the morning. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sit you where the good Lord spit you. And hopefully the good Lord didn't spit you too wide. If that makes sense to you, you can follow Big C Sports Podcast on 29 podcast applications all over the universe. You can find us on 4 streaming applications as well: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. And I really do appreciate that. I want to say with Big C Sports Podcast, I always produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all use more laughter in our lives. I know I could use more laughter. And then the commercials are done. The stats are provided. I do the storytelling. And then I do the play-by-play. Big C up to the plate. Bases loaded that counts for the pitch. Curveball. Swung on. Hit deep. back to the wall. Home run! Big C takes him deep. Say hello to my little friends. The girls love the long ball, and men love to hit deep. And that's what I love doing, hitting deep when I do Big C Sports Podcast. And then the show's uploaded to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City. And I'm in Dimdale Hills, California. And then number 10, I never missed a show since creating Big C Sports with the crew. And back in Salem Media. And now we have people that miss a day in practice. I'm not talking about the game. I'm talking about practice. And I never missed a show with Big C Sports Podcast. Through joy, pain, sunshine, and rain. And that's what I love doing with Big C Sports Podcast. You know, there's so much that I love about doing Big C Sports Podcast. And I also want to make sure that I think I'm the only sports show in the universe. I make sure that I pay homage to the Veterans Crisis Hotline because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And I want to make sure that our veterans, they have a hotline to go to and get help. Oftentimes people say, thank you for your service. But what does that really mean if you're going through tough times and you have no one to help you hold your hand? And sometimes we just need someone to hold our hand. That's what I love doing with Big C Sports Podcast. I love giving out that PSA. You can do it too. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. You know anybody going through issues? Pick up the phone. Call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's a veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give us some praise because we all need somebody to lean on. And it's always nice when somebody's leaning back in the Veterans Crisis Hotline. They do a good job of leaning back. I also want to say with the Big C Sports Podcast, I was telling you, a birdie told me the other day, we have baseball coming to the capital city. Not the Sacramento Solons, not the Sacramento River Cats, but the Oakland A's. They're going to be known as the Athletics. They don't want to put the name Sacramento on the top of their jersey for whatever reason, but they're going to be known as the Athletics. We done stole another team from the Bay Area. I kind of feel bad for Oakland. They lost the Raiders twice. One time the Raiders went down to L.A., and then they came back, I believe, in 95 or 96. And then they took off again just a few years ago. This time they moved to Las Vegas. And now Oakland without an NFL football team. And then you have the Golden State Warriors. They went back to San Francisco where they came from after they came from Philadelphia, and they went to the beautiful Chase Center. So now Oakland's out of an NBA basketball team. And then people say, at least I have one. And then the Oakland A's, they could not make a deal. They could not strike a deal with the Oakland Alameda County. And so they decided they would go down the Interstate 80 highway to the city called Sacramento, called the River City. They're not even in Sacramento, they're in West Sacramento, right there on the beautiful Sacramento River. But I think about it, when people think about, oh, that's a good thing, the Valley now has a professional baseball team, it's the same community that was trying to hold on to the Sacramento Kings. They were almost out of here a few years ago until the great Kevin Johnson, former mayor of Sacramento, he met with David Stern in New York City, and he said, if we can build an arena from the old antiquated Arco Arena, Sleep Train Arena, would you let the Kings stay in Sacramento? And the late David Stern said yes. That's why Kevin Johnson should have a statue outside the Golden West Center. But instead of a statue, they decided to put a bunny rabbit. They put a bunny rabbit outside the Golden West Center instead of a statue of the great mayor Kevin Johnson. And he's the reason that the Kings are still here in town. So when people think, well, now we have the Oakland A's, I feel a little bad for Oakland. And then it's not Sacramento's fault because the Oakland Alameda and the Coliseum, they could not come together and keep three of their teams. They were asking for new arenas, and the city's having its own issues, and they didn't see the benefit of keeping sports. Now they lost three professional teams, even though the A's, they'll throw their first pitch in 2025 at Sutter Health Park in Sacramento, West Sacramento, right across from the Tower Bridge, and about a mile from the state capitol, maybe a mile and a half from the state capitol. But it's a great looking ballpark, but it's a minor league ballpark. But they're going to probably add on to it. I think if you look at the size of ballparks, you have, I want to say maybe the smallest ballpark in Major League Baseball is Wrigley Field in Chicago, but that's been in the neighborhood for many, many moons. I believe it holds about 35,000, give or take a few thousand. And then you have Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts. That holds about 35,000, give or take a few thousand. And then the Oakland Alameda Coliseum, they have baseball configuration of 35,000. But they rarely had more than 10 to 15,000 in the ballpark. So now, what do they get by coming to Sacramento? Well, Sutter Health Park is about 10,000 seats with about 4,000 grass seats on the outfield. I don't think you want to go to a Major League Baseball stadium and sit on grass, but they'll most likely add some extra seating at Sutter Health Park in Sacramento. Maybe they'll add another 10,000 seats to put the capacity to 20,000 regular seats, and maybe they have 4,000 standing room only, but it's going to be a small park. It's only there for maybe 3, possibly 4 seasons. But even if they go to Las Vegas has a lot of tearing down. I believe they have to tear down a hotel. I believe it's called the Tropicana, if I'm not mistaken. So they got to tear that down, and they have to do all their studies, and then they have to lay the groundwork for a new stadium, maybe a 35,000-seater stadium in Las Vegas at the Strip. What do they get from coming to Sacramento? In the summertime, when baseball's great, the summers can be pretty hot up here, about 105 degrees. And there are times when you're right about even sometime 108, 110. And they don't have a dome in Sacramento other than the dome at the state capitol building or the layer of fog that rolls over the valley in the morning, but that's not in the summertime. So they're going to have misters. Those water misters they're going to have outside of the stadium. They're going to do that to try to keep people cool when it's 105 degrees. But at the same time, they may just start to play a lot of the games at nighttime also, 7 o'clock, when it's only 99 degrees at first pitch. But what happens to the River Cats? Are they going to split the stadium with the Sacramento River Cats? Will the Central Valley fans be asked to pay for minor league and Major League Baseball at the same stadium? Maybe they're going to put the River Cats down in Stockton. Who knows? But Stockton has the Stockton Ports. And then Modesto has the Modesto Nuts. And then Fresno has the Fresno Grizzlies. So where will they put the River Cats? Maybe they'll put them in Oakland, if that makes sense to you. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Would Sacramento fight losing the San Francisco Giants farm team and put them across in the bay and let them play at the Coliseum? Maybe Oakland should try to get the River Cats to come to Oakland, call them the Oakland River Cats. Why not? I mean, if you want to take someone's team, you should take their team. Maybe the Sacramento River Cats will play the Oakland Coliseum and call them the Oakland River Cats. You ever see a river cat? They're a pretty scary sight to see, if that makes sense to you. But I'll talk about the thought some people kind of torn because the A's, they should be in Oakland. But that's Oakland and Alameda County's fault. They were told build a new arena or build a new stadium right there near Jack London Square. They've been talking about that for years. And the city couldn't do it or they wouldn't do it. And then some good old boys from Las Vegas, they have deep pockets. And they said, we give you some money to come to Vegas. Not only will you give you some money, we're going to build you a new stadium. A beautiful, shiny, 35,000 seat stadium. And when you're playing in front of 10 to 15,000 people a day at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, why would you not leave? In Oakland, they could not work it out. With the ownership for the Oakland A's and Oakland Alameda County, they couldn't work it out. And that's a shame because that franchise has been so great over the years, whether they're a winning team or not. That Oakland A's, the elephant, they're synonymous with Oakland. They couldn't keep the Warriors. They couldn't keep the Raiders. And now they can't keep the A's. And the A's have not been great as of late. But when you go to Sacramento, they're going to be sold out crowd. Obviously, you're only talking about maybe 14 to 20,000 if they add more seats. I think they're going to add at least another 10,000 seats. They can do that in about a month's time and put them in the outfield and build up the outfield. Kind of like the Green Monster in Boston, but you have people instead of the Green Monster in Boston. I think they're going to do that over in Sacramento. It makes sense. You got to find a way to have a bigger stadium for baseball standards. They're not going to have a 14,000 seat stadium where 3,000 to 4,000 of the seats are sitting on grass. But I'm all for progress. And they had Sacramento Mayor Dale Steinberg. He was talking on a local radio sports show about it's not Sacramento's fault. They were either going to go to Sacramento or they were going to go to Salt Lake City. If you're an A's fan, you still have the I-80 rival. You can jump on Amtrak and go right to the stadium for the most part, minus taking a couple of Ubers or even getting some public transportation to get to the stadium. I believe Amtrak's about 2.5, 3 miles at the most from Sutter Health Park. And then you also have I-80, which when you're driving from the Bay Area, you come into West Sacramento, and just to the north is the ballpark where the A's will play. And that's first pitch 2025. So no matter what people say, it's 90 miles away from Oakland to Sacramento. And then the Bay Area has moved out so far to the Central Valley, towns like Fairfield and Vacaville are considered Bay Valley's town. Bay Valley City is about 125,000 people combined with Vacaville and Fairfield near Travis Air Force Base. So there's a lot of fans that would drive from Vacaville to Fairfield into Oakland, which is probably a good 50 minutes, 45 miles or so. And now they can drive that same 45 minutes, 50 minutes into Sacramento. So for those people in the Bay Valley, it doesn't matter as much. And when you say, well, what about the people of Oakland? Well, when the A's were in Oakland, over there off of, I believe, Hagenberger exit, Interstate 880, they were only getting about 10,000 fans anyway. So they may have more fans at Sutter Health Park in Sacramento than they had in Oakland. Rarely would they have more than 20,000 fans, and that would be a playoff scenario, or when the Giants had the Bay Bridge rivalry between the Giants and the A's. So no longer will they have the Bay Bridge rivalry, where you play in Oakland and San Francisco crossing the Bay Bridge, depending on who has a home team. And now it's going to be the I-80 rival, a lot like the Sacramento Kings and the Golden State Warriors. But I do feel it's a lot real estate. People are leaving the Bay Area, coming east because it's a lot cheaper, it's more affordable to live here, and that's just the reality. I do feel bad for Oakland because that shining Coliseum complex lost the Raiders, it lost the Golden State Warriors, and now it's losing the Oakland A's. And you know all of those three franchises, what they have in common? They've all won championships. But championships are gone now. They're still going to be in Oakland for the remainder of this season. So when the Oakland fans protest the 10,000 that show up, that they say 10,000, there are times, and I can say based on the news, you may have is about 5,000 in the stadium. And I thought it all went downhill when they built Mount Davis, when the late Al Davis built Mount Davis for those PSL licensing and took the Coliseum from 55,000 for football to 65,000, and you had to buy the PSL, and people just didn't buy into it. And now the Raiders are gone. I thought they should have torn down Mount Davis. Like the old days before they built Mount Davis, when you were at home plate, you could see the East Bay Hills. And now you can't see the East Bay Hills. You can see the big wall of concrete that most likely would be torn down if they don't get a professional team in there. And I'll see a professional team going to play in a stadium that was built in the 60s and become more and more antiquated based on new stadiums, if that makes sense to you. So maybe they'll get some luck. They'll bring in some soccer there, or they'll have the Sacramento River Cats go to Oakland. That's a fair trade. I don't see Sacramento Valley fans trying to buy River Cats tickets and then buy athletics tickets on the same day. One team play in the daytime, the other team play at nighttime. I don't see that happening. I do think it's going to be great for the Sacramento Valley in the first couple of years. And maybe if it falls through in Las Vegas, maybe they'll decide, let's just build a 30,000-seat ballpark in Sacramento and make it a home run, if that makes sense to you, because that's feasible. So now Sacramento is a booming city. I believe about 2.5 million people in the metropolitan area. It's just right on the Sacramento River, the convergence of the American River and the Sacramento River. It's an hour and a half from the Bay Area, if you consider the Bay Area being San Francisco to the Bay Bridge from downtown Sacramento. It's about an hour and a half from the snow if you go up the Interstate 80 or Highway 50 corridor up to the Lake Tahoe, Reno area. It's in wine country from Napa, about an hour and 15 minutes from Napa. It's about 40 minutes north of the Lodi region, which is also known as the number 2 wine region in California. There's a lot of rivers and lakes around the valley. It has a nice delta breeze. It doesn't have the same traffic congestion that you have in the Bay Area, even though it's getting there. They're working on expanding light rail. You have access to the stadium through the river, the Sacramento River. It does not have the hotels that you have in the Bay Area. but it can come. It's like the Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And I think the city leaders, especially if they're looking at it, expanding the region for entertainment, I think they will expand the opportunity for entertainment in Sacramento the same way housing has grown in Sacramento, bringing people from the Bay Area. Next is going to be business. And so the Sacramento Kings, the owner of the Sacramento Kings is Vivek Ranadive. He is also the owner of the Sacramento River Cats. And now they're going to have to compete for the same dollar. Now, the Kings have been great of late, especially since they built Golden One Center. It's always sold out, even though every seat may not be filled every game. But I see the national media, they understand cowbell's not included. The fan base in the Sacramento Valley is crazy for sports. And a lot of the Sacramento Valley fans, they are transplants from Central and Northern California anyway. So it makes sense for the Sacramento Valley because it's growing. They had the Sacramento Solons. I believe that league folded, but Pacific Coast League back in the 1958. That's when the Dodgers and the Giants came out from the East Coast. And so that franchise went away. The River Cats been here almost 2 decades. But I think for the Athletics to be in Sacramento, it's great for the Sacramento Valley. It's not so great for Oakland and the business owners that lost that revenue that was generated when the A's were in town. But at the same time, you have to spend money to make money. In Alameda County, how did they lose the A's to a smaller market? The same way they lost the Raiders to a smaller market in Vegas. But Vegas is a little bit different because you have that transient gambling money that comes in there. It's a big spender money. It's a city that never sleeps. That's different than being at the Coliseum when you're looking to get out of the area once the games are over at nighttime. If you're in Las Vegas, you're looking to go out and have dinner. You're looking to go out and do entertainment. If you're at the Coliseum, when the game's over, a lot of people are looking to get in their car and drive home. And that's what they missed it. I think they struck out because they did not push hard enough to build an arena around Jack London Square where they have restaurants, where they have access to the water, they have access to more entertainment. And they let it slip away. It was right there in the palm of their hands, but they let it slip away. So while people in Sacramento may be happy that the Athletics are leaving Oakland to come to Sacramento, where there's a lot of room to grow, they're building up downtown Sacramento, and there's a lot of room to grow to the west. Interstate 80, you have Interstate 80 right there that runs right near the new I won't say new ballpark, but the new home for the Oakland A's coming up in 2025. You have Interstate 5, you have Highway 99, Highway 50, Highway 113 out through the Davis area, Yolo County. There's a lot of highways, Interstate 80 North, and also what they call the WX Freeway. So there's a lot of access to the ballpark that you only had in Oakland. You had Interstate 880 for the most part, and then Hagenberger. So I can see where they can grow. Also, the Sacramento Republic FC soccer team, they play near Cal Expo, and they're trying to get a new stadium built just north of downtown Sacramento in what's called the rail yards, where they used to repair locomotive engines back in the day. And they've tried to clean up the toxicity in that area, and it's right off of Interstate 5, just north of downtown. And so Sacramento right now, it has a chance to do, in just my opinion, what San Francisco to the west has done. They have the Golden State Warriors, and they have the San Francisco Giants about a mile away, McCovey Cove from Chase Center. You can walk from one arena to the other stadium, right across McCovey Cove, just off the heart of downtown. Well, Sacramento can do the same thing with the Oakland A's, Sacramento A's, Athletic, what are you going to call them, coming to town, and the Sacramento Kings right there about a few blocks away from the Sacramento River and less than a mile away from where the Athletics will play. So it can become a sports mecca called Doco Center, where they're building up downtown Sacramento. It's a beautiful city. It's a city on the growth. It's a diverse city. Sacramento, California is. Maybe even as diverse as the East Bay. The media is not as diverse in Sacramento. It's mostly white. Where the Bay Area has more diversity in their media, but that may change as more and more people start listening to Big C Sports Podcast and start realizing that diversity is a good thing. Unlike Ron DeSantis down in Florida, or Greg Abbott down in Texas, we like diversity here in the capital city. I just think it's a great thing for Sacramento. It's not a great thing for Oakland. But if you really miss having your team in Oakland, maybe petition Sacramento to get the Sacramento River Cats. And it's not that far-fetched to say that. I don't see them going down to Stockton to play where the Stockton Ports play, or Modesto where the Modesto Nuts play, or Fresno where the Fresno Grizzlies play. Have them go to Oakland. And for the fans that really miss Oakland, maybe you can support the River Cats. That's not too far-fetched that I'm saying that. But I feel bad for Oakland no matter what. But I do feel happy for Sacramento. Big C up to the plate. Bases full of the pitch. Curveball swung on. Hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Grand slam. Say hello to my little friends. The girls love the long ball. And men love to hit deep. And they're hitting deep in Sacramento. That's a really good play by the city of Sacramento that they actually got behind it. And then, of course, again, people may be torn. But if you're a Kings fan, before the Kings came here, I believe they came to Sacramento in 1984-85 season from Kansas City. Well, Kansas City lost the Kansas City Kings. They came to Sacramento. I'm sure people hate that. And then if you look at the Kings, they've really become the centerpiece of sports mecca in Northern California. When you think about it, and now the A's have a chance to walk that same path. Of course, when the Kings, ironically, when they came here, they had an 11,000-seat arena that was out near, I believe, Del Paso Boulevard, north out there by the airport, Sacramento International Airport. It was only 11,000 seats. And then, I believe the year later, they built a 17,000-seat Arco Center or Arco Arena, which later became Sleep Train Arena, and it had a couple of name changes. So they went from 11,000, which is ironically, the River Cats play at a 10,000-seat ballpark. So for people that say, oh, that's not enough seating, think about what happened with the Kings. They went from 11,000 to 17,000. And now, as Arco Arena, Sleep Train became antiquated, they built a beautiful Golden One Center because of Mayor Kevin Johnson working with David Stern in the NBA. And now they have a 17,000-plus Golden Center. Golden One is like a state-of-the-art center. It's a great place to see a basketball game. And I think people saw last year, they used to always say that Arco Arena was the greatest place for basketball. And some of the great players, Chris Webber used to, when he was rocking the scene back in the day, Vlade Divac, Mike Bibby, Doug Christie, those good old boys, and Bobby Jackson. They had, arguably, when they got robbed by the NBA and the Lakers won in a Game 7 at Arco, people called it the loudest arena in basketball then. But I think it's gotten even better with the Golden One Center. Last year for the playoff game with the Golden One Center packed to the rafters, and the Golden State Warriors, they would have it was packed inside over 17+ thousand. Outside of the arena, they would have about another 20,000 fans watching on television, filling up Doco Center. So that's saying about 40,000 fans would turn up for the Kings game, that playoff series they had last year with Golden State. So look at what happens for people that say, oh, they're going to be here for a couple of years and then they're going to leave to Las Vegas. You know, sometimes you shoot craps in Vegas and things fall through. Because from a lot of people's thoughts, the people of Vegas, they don't want the A's. They want a new team, an expansion team. But if you look at Sacramento, the footprint, out by the old Arco Arena, they've torn it down. They had still had the foundation for a Major League Baseball stadium. Now, they've torn that down since then, I believe. But if you look at what the Kings did when they came from Kansas City, they played in an 11,000-seat arena. They moved to a 17,000-seat arena, Arco, I guess you could call it Arco Arena 2, Sleep Train Arena. And now they're the beautiful Golden One Center, downtown Sacramento, holds about 17,000 plus. And I can see a similar thing happen for the Athletics. If they can do that and take it from 10,000 seats, I'm not talking about the 4,000 sitting on your backside. They can build another 10,000, maybe even 20,000 seats and make it a complete 30,000 seat stadium. They can do it in phases. Do the outfield first, but don't lose the view of downtown. Keep the view of the Tower Bridge where people can see runners on first and third. That counts for the pitch. Curveball, swung on, hit deep, center field, back to the wall, home run. Big C just hit the Tower Bridge. The girls love the long ball, and men love to hit deep. Don't get rid of the view of downtown Sacramento. That's my opinion. But you know, everybody has an opinion. But that's my opinion. I like opinions. Opinions are good. But anyway, I'm happy for Sacramento. I'm not as happy for the people in the Bay Area. But hey, if you don't like it, how about the Oakland River Cats? You can replace an elephant as a mascot for a river cat. It'd be called a Bay Cat. How about the Oakland Bay Cats? Because the bay is bigger than the river. Anyway, it's a thought, and it's out there. Oakland has to find a way to keep entertainment in that stadium and see if the people will support it. That's my story. I'm taking with it. I want to give Sacramento some praise because they done stole another team. Not only was Kansas City robbed, now Oakland's been robbed. And they found the culprit in Sacramento. All's fair and never war. I heard that a long time ago. I want to give praise to the California. Oh my goodness! I just had an epiphany. The reason Oakland left, the Oakland A's left, is because they wanted to find where's Big C. I want to find Big C. They didn't have to come to Sacramento to find Big C. I'm in the Bay Area too, if that makes sense. It just hit me upside the head like the rock that my brother threw at me when I was 12 years old. Hit me right upside the head. And now they coming to Sacramento so they can find Big C. I'm also in the Bay, if that makes sense to you. But that's my story that I'm taking with it. Or maybe, just maybe, they want to show support for California Reparations Task Force. Because they know our mind is a terrible thing to waste. But I want to give praise to the California Reparations Task Force. I want to thank the chair, Camila Moore, an attorney at law. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to thank Dr. Amos C. Brown, the vice chair. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to thank California Senator Stephen Bradford. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to thank Councilwoman Monica Montgomery Steppe. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to thank Assembly Member Reginald Jones Sawyer. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to thank Dr. Shell Grills. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to thank Attorney Lisa Holder. She's brilliant. And she's also an expert in diversity, equity, and inclusion. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to thank Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, professor at California Berkeley. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to thank Attorney Donald K. Tamaki. He's brilliant, part of the California Reparations Task Force. I love giving him praise. Give them all praise, praise, praise. Part of the California Reparations Task Force. I also want to thank Double O. She's part of the PAC Committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. Has her own economic awareness talks show called Let's Eat. She sent me Executive Order 13985 last year. It was on further advancing equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. That's called the White House. That's President Biden's thing. And now President Biden, obviously, trying to get reelected as President of the United States, but he's asking me for $20. If I give him $20, how can I go see the A's game? But I said if you were to pay out reparations, you would get more than $20. You got to go just like Oakland A's. Oakland Alameda County had the solution to keep the A's in their backyard called Build a New Stadium. Figure it out. Work it out. Now they're gone. President Biden's in the White House trying to figure out how can he stay there. And now he's reaching out to the African-American community saying, can you give me $20? If you give me reparations, I can give you more than $20. Don't do what the A's did to Alameda County in Oakland. They left because they didn't get what they wanted. You got African Americans as a monolithic group voting for you. Don't let what happened to the Oakland A's happen to you if you take it for granted that they're always going to support you. Get reparations started. Just like Georgetown, right there in the heart of Washington, D.C. They pledged over $1 billion in counting to descendants of child slavery. 272 families that were sold off to pay off the debts for Georgetown University. You're in the heart of Washington, D.C., President Biden. You can do that if that makes sense to you. I want to thank Double O, part of the PAC Committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. She has her own economic awareness talks show called Let's Eat. Everybody loves to eat. She sent me this article by the United Nations. It says strong political will and leadership are crucial to ensure reparatory justice for people of African descent. Because reparations are real. Just like Freedmen's Bank, created in 1865 for descendants of child slavery to have a bank for freed African Americans to put their money in. You know, it was created by Congress It was signed by executive order President Abraham Lincoln to create Freedmen's Bank. California Senator Stephen Bradford, he has a bank proposal called Freedmen's Bureau. It's called SB 490 to create Freedmen's Bureau in California, to create a bank that pays out reparations. Oh, Big C, there you go talking about reparations again. I thought you were talking about the Sacramento, the River Cats, now the Sacramento Athletics are the Sacramento A's, and the Oakland Bay Cats if they get the River Cats to go to Oakland. To me, it's a logical choice. But if you look at NBC News, the Associated Press, they did an article on California reparations. It was March 30, 2023. At the top of the article, it says Charlton Curry of Sacramento, California, who discusses reparations on his Big C Sports podcast, that cash payments are necessary and that money talks. And then after talking about that story, guess who's coming to dinner? The great Sidney Poitier, not included, that story back in the Catholic Herald back in the day. Guess who's coming to Sacramento? After reading that story, the Oakland A's. They left Oakland to come to Sacramento. So I feel like I'm credible talking about reparations, because if the Associated Press listen to Big C, then maybe you should too. I love talking about reparations because it's real. And there's more things I'm going to talk about. I told you about the sports already with the Oakland A's. Congratulations coming to Sacramento, California. I want to say it's important to me because it's important. I believe what Oakland missed out on, they missed out on the opportunity to guide, to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth into the bank accounts of Bay Area fans. They didn't keep the Oakland A's because they refused to protect their assets. Now I'm working on a commercial, and I do it live. If I make a mistake, you hear the mistake. I don't do like other programs where I go into a warehouse or a studio and I don't let you hear my commercial. I do mine loud and clear. Why the Oakland A's came to Sacramento? They wanted to be close to the RDC team, Resource Development Consulting, in conjunction with the law office of Scott Thibodeau and the law offices of George Jones, attorney at law. The missing link, long-term care solutions by the book, over 3 decades of experience helping seniors get their benefits, Medicare, and you taking care of tomorrow in health care coverage in California is called Medi-Cal. So why would the Oakland A's follow the Big C team and RDC, Big C? I'm glad you asked, because your family and spouse can avoid the spin down for nursing home costs and find out your options. Our promise to you is to specialize to navigate and maximize long-term care benefits, protection of your assets, if that makes sense to you, without a spin down. All paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by our staff of entitlement specialists. Ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary. Benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescriptions, medical equipment costs, and more. Do you know anyone dealing with skilled nursing facilities? Do you know anyone dealing with prescription drugs? Do you know anyone dealing with medical equipment costs and more? Like the Oakland A's, they could have had protection of their assets. That's what we do with the Big C team at RDC, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family. Avoiding the nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program can be from 10 to 40% in a one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums. You get that with the RDC team and Big C Sports. They should have done that. And that's why I say with my commercial, we want to help you protect your assets, if that makes sense to you. I would have hoped that the Oakland A's would have stayed in Oakland. But I'm glad that they come to Sacramento, California. That's important. Not only those benefits, working with Big C Sports, the Big C team and RDC, because we offer protection insurance coverage required by law, general liability, workers' compensation. We have lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal planning for long-term care. You can avoid probate, because if you don't have your property in a trust, at the end of your life, the probate court, they have a will for you, and they will come after your assets, if that makes sense to you. We have life insurance, veterans benefits, aid and attendance, pre-planning, and avoid the look-back period. What about fixed assets, Big C? Well, I'm glad you asked. A bank account, checking account, savings account, money market account, certificates of deposit, life insurance with cash values, fixed index annuities. What about variable assets, Big C? Well, I'm glad you asked, because we have real estate, Like the Oakland A's, they're looking for new real estate, qualified money, IRA, 401k, other investments. And that, to me, I want to say you got to give that some praise. I say give it praise, praise, praise. But not only that, when someone says, why would we trust you, Big C and RDC? I'm glad you asked. When everyone tells you they want to sell you a policy or offer you something, we do business consulting. But we have the endorsement of Mr. George Jones. He's the chairman of the California Black Chamber of Commerce, the California Black Chamber of Commerce Foundation. We have the endorsement of Mr. Leon Woods, Resource Development Consulting, works with some of the top lobbyists in California. We have Mrs. Cheryl Brown. She's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. That's big. We have Mr. Ray De La Cruz, the CEO of Resource Development Consulting. Mr. Alex De La Cruz, the founder of American Veteran Benefits. And we have Charlton Curry of Big C Sports with the RDC team, Business Development Consultant. And I consulted to bring the A's to the capital city. Give that some praise. I say give it praise, 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 because I'm not shucking and jiving. But I do want to say something, because I'm very big on reparations too, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit of sports. But for those of you who say that we don't need no reparations, I got to tell you something. Do you believe in miracles? You heard the great Al Michaels talk about that back in the Olympic Games. But I want to hear the greatest speaker in the history of the universe, the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who unfortunately, life was taken away on April 4th, same day as today. But I want you to hear one of the speakers that talks about reparations and why it's necessary. Listen to a conservative talk show host talk about Dr. Martin Luther King and reparations.
We had a conversation a couple days ago about handouts and how these right-wing memes, these Republican memes, have infiltrated the Democratic debate to suggest that, ending welfare as we know it, all those kind of things are somehow, great and noble things, when we're not dealing with the underlying problem, which is that there's no economic opportunity there because of insane trade policies and because of Reaganomics. And Martin Luther King spoke to this. Jim and Shane, this is clip number 4. Martin Luther King spoke to this sometime back in the early 60s. And I thought this was a really interesting quote. Here he is.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
From his speech, The Two Nations of Black America. And it's absolutely brilliant. And the next time some white person talks about, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and my family did too, especially the Bundy boys. I mean, here's Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talking about how basically whites stole the West from the Indians with the complete, and didn't just steal it. I mean, murdered them he murdered the Indians in the process, and did not give any of these benefits to African Americans for 100 years in this country. It's a strong case for reparations or some variation on it, for rebuilding our cities, for doing right after having done wrong for so many centuries. it is a very, very strong case for that.
You got to give that some praise. I'm telling you, when you think about Big C Sports Podcast, you only hear that on my show. You don't hear that on other programs. And I don't mind giving praise by anybody. And that's conservative talk show hosts that talked about that. But I've been talking about it for years. Give that some praise. Don't pretend you didn't hear it. And that's why I love supporting the California Reparations Task Force, because a mind is a trouble thing to waste. And it's not a divisive issue. It's not at all. I got to tell you something. You know, in my thinking, life is so much more fair when you do the right thing. As far as endorsements for Big C Sports and the RDC team, I'm for reparations. I'm for liberty and justice for all. But now, what's happening now is as I'm co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project, because black dollars matter, and President Joe Biden knows that. So people say, what's the National Black Wall Street Project, Big C? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm going to be working in conjunction with the RDC team that has all these great endorsements from Attorney George Jones, the chairman of the California Black Chamber of Commerce, also Attorney Scott Thibodeau, also Cheryl Brown, the chair of the California Commission on Aging, and Mr. Leon Woods, resource development consultant. There's so many great people that endorse what RDC is doing. Also, the California Department of Insurance endorses that. But when I was talking to Reverend Tony Pierce today, the president and CEO of the National Black Wall Street Project, economic empowerment and justice and equality for all. That's what we're about, improving economic education. The Black Wall Street Global Project is on a mission to elevate our community with a sense of righteousness and economic education for people of color. With over 50 years of experience contributing towards community growth, we are adept at amplifying economic recovery for international stability. And that's what I want to say. You want to give that some praise. There's a lot of great people behind that. Below, part of the PI committee for the National Black Wall Street Project here in Northern California, Brother Aleem Shabazz, owner of Crescent Sports Media as co-chair, and also Big C with the Big C Sports Podcast, and also a business development consultant with the RDC team. I want to make sure that I get that out there, because coming together to help create economic opportunity with RDC and National Black Wall Street Project, that's important. But I got to tell you something else too. Just when you think, oh, I don't believe that we need any reparations, I wish I would have won the Powerball last night, but I actually didn't make it. I guess I got to win the Powerball coming up on Saturday, because now it's $1.2 billion. That's a lot of money. We're going to keep it all. $1.2 billion. That's a lot of money when you think about it. And people got to understand that I'm not shucking and jiving. I want to bring up something as I talk about reparations and also sports, because it's so important that we think about these things that are not, it's not just talk. I know sometimes people think, oh man, you just talking, and that's never going to happen. But there's a lot of good things that are coming out of the talk for reparations. We got to know that it's true. It's not just about me. It's about doing the right thing. That's why with Big C Sports, I love paying homage to the California Reparations Task Force, because a mind is a trouble thing to waste. I don't want to be just somebody shucking and jiving about it. There's a thing that came out in the media today. It's a day that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. went home on April 4th. But there's a slavery tribunal. Africa and Caribbean, they unite on reparations. April 4th, 2024. And you can Google it. I'm going to tell you because it's so important to me to talk about these things. It says Africa and Caribbean, they join forces and fight for reparations. See, I'm not crazy after all. And then it says the African Union to draw up its own white paper on reparations, that leaders consider a push for a special tribunal on slavery, and that the United States is to decide on a tribunal when developed and established. April 4th, by Reuters, support is building not only among the Big C team in the California Reparations Task Force that's mandated by California Governor Gavin Newsom, and talked about support by President Joe Biden. It says support is building among Africa and the Caribbean nations for the creation of an international tribunal on atrocities dating to the transatlantic trade of enslaved people, with the United States backing a United Nations panel at the heart of the effort. You got to give that some praise. It's not just Big C Sports talking. Because sometimes if it's one beautiful, intelligent black man, then people want to say, oh, we don't believe that's possible. But not only is it possible, it's happening. Not only is it possible, it's happening. I said, give that some praise. It's more important than the A's coming to Sacramento. It says the tribunal is modeled on other ad hoc courts, such as the Nuremberg trials of Nazi war criminals after World War II, was proposed last year. It has now gained traction within a broader slavery reparations movement, in that Reuters report, based on interviews with a dozen people, it reveals that formally recommended in June by the United Nations Permanent Forum for People of African Descent. The idea of a special tribunal has been explored further at African and Caribbean regional bodies. You got to understand that. Eric Phillips, a vice chair of the Slavery Reparations Commission for the Caribbean community, which groups 15 member states. I'll finish with this. The scope of any tribunal has not been determined, but the United Nations Forum recommended in a preliminary report that it should address reparations for enslavement, apartheid, genocide, and colonialism. You got to give that some praise. You got to give it praise. See, it's not just Big C Sports. It's not just the Big C team. I'm doing the best I can to spread the word. Reparations now, reparations forever. I'm not just talking when I say that. We're not just waiting on that. I want to say that it's so powerful. And what I want to do with the National Black Wall Street Project, working in conjunction with the RDC team, is help people understand that there is a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth. Think about what happened O.W. Gurley. Who's O.W. Gurley, Big C? I'm glad you asked. His name was Ottawa, or they called him O.W. Gurley. Remember, it was one of the wealthiest men in Tulsa, Oklahoma before the 1921 Tulsa Massacre. Destroyed his property and forced him to flee. O.W. Gurley was born on Christmas Day in 1868 to freed slaves in Huntsville, Alabama. Now, Gurley grew up in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. He was self-educated and eventually married his childhood sweetheart, Emma. After a brief time as a teacher, he worked at the United States Postal Service. In 1893, Gurley participated in the Cherokee Outlet land rush in Indian Territory. And when you think about what I'm saying, I'm not just talking about something that happened a long time ago. It's happening again because people want to do the right thing. And when you want to do the right thing, it gets traction. May lightning strike for doing the right thing. I love talking about this stuff. It's important. Gurley ran unsuccessfully for treasurer of Noble County, but later became principal of the town school and operated a general store in the community. In 1905, Gurley and his wife sold their property in Noble County and moved 80 miles to the oil boom town of Tulsa. Gurley purchased 40 acres of land in northern Tulsa and established his first business, a rooming house on a dusty road that would become Greenwood Avenue. He subdivided his plot into residential and commercial lots and eventually opened a grocery store. As the community grew around him, Gurley prospered between 1910 and 1920. The black population in the area he had purchased grew from 2,000 to nearly 9,000 in a city with a total population of 72,000. The black community had a large working class population as well as doctors, lawyers, and other professionals who provided services to them. And then soon the Greenwood section was dubbed Negro Wall Street by Tuskegee educator Booker T. Washington, ultimately known to be at the Black Wall Street. I want to give that praise. I want to give it praise, because as co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project in Northern California, I want to do my part to bring together commerce and lawyers to make possibility of growing economic opportunity for people of all, especially descendants of child slavery. And when you hear the United Nations, the Caribbean countries, Africa, and the United States are talking about reparations. Who's been telling you reparations for the last 5 years? Big C Sports Podcast. I'm not just shucking and jiving. It's great that the Major League Baseball is coming to the capital city. At the same time, if they're not talking about reparations now, reparations forever, then they're going to hear more about it. Sports Podcast. So as I open the show, the Oakland A's are officially leaving Oakland after the 2024 season to play in Sacramento through 2027 until a Las Vegas stadium is ready. That's what they're pushing for, to have it ready. So the Athletics, as part of their effort to relocate to Las Vegas in time for the 2028 season, are scheduled to play their home games for the 2025-2027 season at Southern Health Park in Sacramento, California. The team announced that today. And the deal includes an option for a fourth season. The A's lease with the city of Oakland is set to expire at the end of this season, yet the A's rejected a 5-year extension on the lease of Oakland Coliseum. That, plus an apparent desire to retain as much of this local broadcasting revenue as possible, a factor that many have discussed, from temporarily relocating to Salt Lake City, which would have been a bad deal, or another out-of-state city. The A's led to the capital city of California, and now they're going to be called the Athletics. I don't think they're going to have the Sacramento A's as their name, but that's still up for talk. The A's do not intend to change their name to reflect Sacramento residency. Instead, they'll be known simply by their nickname according to the Athletics. And if that stays that way, that's fine too. So team officials met in the city of Sacramento today. Actually, they met yesterday and today, according to the San Francisco Chronicle, a day after saying that they were far apart on the terms to keep the team in Oakland, which is a bad deal for Oakland. I wish they would have. I like that they're here too, but I kind of wish they would have stayed in Oakland, because now they lost their team. Maybe they'll get the River Cats to become the Oakland Bay Cats, because the Oakland Bay is so close. I don't know what's going to happen with sports in Oakland. It's like they've all left. The Raiders left, the Golden State Warriors left, and now the A's are leaving. But at least they're still close enough for fans that love baseball to drive up to Sacramento and see a game. But there are some things happening in Central California where people in the industry are coming here, and now you have sports teams coming. So the Sacramento Kings are still the top dog for the dollar in downtown Sacramento. You have Sacramento Republic FC. If they become a world-class, state-of-the-art stadium in the road, I think it's called the Rail Yards, maybe they'll get another level of professional soccer here. But people are moving to the Sacramento Valley, make no question about it. And they want to get closer to sports, and they want to get closer to the Secretary of State, Shirley Weber, because when reparations happens, they'll be able to say, free at last, thank God Almighty, reparations has passed, if that makes sense to you. Well, that's my story that I'm thinking with it. I'm telling you, I do things because I want to make more fun happen in life. I know I do feel bad for the city of Oakland because they've lost their team. And it's not like they're coming back. They're not going to come back. But they can get the River Cats and call them the Bay Cats. That's my story that I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you on every Big C Sports show, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber, you can call Lyft, you can walk it off, you can sleep it off, but don't let some of your love start drinking and get behind the wheel of a car and drive. The life you save may be your own or somebody that you love. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that crap on their own. If you know anybody going through that crap, pick up the phone and call 911. Because when people love you, they don't slap you. When people love you, they don't hit you. No man, woman, or child should ever have to put up with that crap. Pick up the phone and call 911. People change when the police show up. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to shout, reparations now, reparations forever. And then I float like a butterfly, and I sting like a bee. There was none greater than Muhammad Ali. As you always know, as I always tell you on every Big C Sports show, I love praising my family, my legacy, On my beautiful mother's side, my great-grandmother called her Mama. My great-grandfather called him Pop. My grandmother called her Muddia. My grandfather called them Hezekiah. They were seers. They could oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, present, and their future. And I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Started a Head Start program, a food program, and coaching all boys Little League baseball team to the championship of the universe. Always saying rise and shine, the best person I ever met in my life. On my father's side, my grandfather Albert Curry with my grandmother Alberta Curry. They owned 3 churches and 2 gas stations in Oakland. When I was 8 years old, she caught me walking through a hallway trying to get some more cookies. And she said, "There's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak." And now I'm on 29 podcast platforms and streaming on 4 TV platforms. Now co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project, Northern California chapter, and also RDC Business Development Consultant, and also Big C Sports Podcast. You got to give that some praise. I say give it praise, praise, praise. I'm going to give praise to my beautiful mama. I love my mama with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. I love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic. Always making sure airplanes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night. Always saying develop your mind to its highest extent. And then my beautiful brother Todd with that bombastic voice sound like thunder and lightning when Todd would speak. Always saying go forward. A voracious leader. I love Todd with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful daughter Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors. In 3.5 years, she set up the very first interview for Big C Sports Podcast back at Salem Media. It became the first time in the history of the United States that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network. Daisy, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You can be anything you want to be. Always trust God, Isaiah 54:17, that no weapon formed against you will prosper. And then my beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College student, very smart, erudite, a good man. Malcolm, you can be anything you want to be. Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get the newspaper and look up stats for Big C Sports Podcast on players and teams. One day Malcolm said, "Dad, why don't you just Google it?" And a light bulb went off. I've been Googling ever since. Now on 29 podcast platforms and streaming on 4 TV platforms. One day Malcolm said, "Dad, you want to see Big C Sports on TV?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Pick up the remote, aim it at the TV and say play Big C Sports. You see your show come up." That's before it was even on the air. Now streaming on 4 TV platforms, Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV. And I really do appreciate that. Xfinity, Comcast TV. There's so many things that are happening. But as I always tell you, Big C, with all that wealth of knowledge over the years, Malcolm, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Always say you can trust God. You got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe. Let's get ready to rumble. I love saying, welcome to the show. As we nominated Big C Sports Podcast. I have no scripts. I have no 3-way teleprompters. I have no producer in my ear. But I always want to honor President Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King Jr. when he says, sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. Come on, say it like your heart, mind, body, and soul believes in it. You got to sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. Say it like I just hit deep right field back to the wall. Grand slam. Sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. I thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope that you have a super fantastic day.